Hey gang, sorry I meant to get this out earlier. Dan Jenkins is on my ass. He's trying to get me to get this thing out. He just sent me a message on Facebook. I've been waiting all day. Hey, we had a bunch of stuff going on today. We certified Lou Parker and his dog Copper over at the Chase Hotel in Suites. Bed bug detection dog, did fantastic, and so we're so pleased that this time as he comes down to do the certification, everything went well, and really happy. We had, what else we had going on? We had a bunch of stuff going on in the UK and Northern Ireland, and in England, and then we have some stuff with Peru, and then Falco Canine Services and Security and Investigations. We had some stuff going on today, so I am sorry that it took a little bit longer to get to this today, but so much happening. But what I want to do is I want to talk frankly about outing your dog from a bite. Now this is going to be a little uncomfortable for some of you because this is going to hit you right in the gut, and you're not going to be very happy that we're bringing this out in the open, but it needs to be discussed. Additionally, there may be a few of you watching this that love dogs, and you may be uncomfortable with what we're about to talk about because maybe you're unaware of some methods that are used to train dogs that are currently still being used today, but we're going to talk about those today because I too think that they have no place in dog training whatsoever, whether you're talking about police dogs, security dogs, sport dogs, whatever the case is. There's some methods that just should not be used. As with the command that you train your dog to out or release the bite of equipment or off of a suspect or whatever the case is, the command is simply the requirement of the dog to follow our instructions, just like anything else. Getting the dog to sit, getting the dog to down. You give the dog a command and the dog is supposed to follow it, right? Now, because the dog will either gain something by following it, or they'll be able to avoid something they don't like by following it. Either one of those things are in place in most cases with the dogs. Now, we want a dog simply to do it because they respect us and they do it out of a desire to please us. But as you all know, in many cases, there's usually some reason why the dog will do it. And again, either something to gain or something that they're going to avoid. Now, as simple as this may sound, it gets lost by many handlers and many trainers, especially those that are impatient and want quick fixes. And many of the leading, I hate to say not leading good trainers, but trainers that are out there that are, have a presence in either police work or sport dogs, whatever, will get impatient and use some of these quick fixes. With impatience comes harsh methods and extreme measures. Many of you have been around when I talk about some of these methods that I've used in the past and stopped because I realized that they were ineffective. And some of these tools are things like tasers, cattle prods, sharpened pinch collars, reed sticks that are used to beat the dog over the head until they let go, or the body, or the legs, or the feet, or the paws. And those are the things that I'm talking about. This is one topic that will not be handled by just one episode of one of our video blogs. It's going to take several, or at least a few. And this is just the first one that hopefully will spark some interest and gain some and I will gain some questions or some feedback from some of you, and hopefully this will be a productive discussion. Whether you're working with police dogs, sport dogs, protection dogs, security dogs, this can eventually become one of your biggest headaches if you allow it to become one of your biggest headaches. Again, outing should be just as important to you as sitting, downing, standing, searching, whatever the behavior. Outing is simply another command to get the dog to do something. Using something as silly and insane as stand still, hand up, out, plots as your out command is freaking crazy. I've never understood that. I didn't understand it when I was using it back when I was Anaheim. It's ridiculous. The out command is simply out. It is not stand still, hands up, out, plots. If you're using a phrase to get your dog out, this video blog is for you. If you're currently using a cattle prod, a taser, a sharpened pinch collar, a reed stick to beat your dog off the bite, this series of videos is going to be for you. Because you have resorted to these methods, you are setting yourself up for failure in real life. If your dog has to bite somebody, or if you're in a competition and you're using these methods to get your dog out, it's going to fail you. I guarantee it. At some point it's going to fail you, and it's going to be at the worst possible time. An example of such a failure is a story I just recently heard, and that was of a deployment where a dog was used to search and locate for a hidden suspect. The dog located and bit the suspect. She apparently was hiding in an open field somewhere after a short pursuit. The dog located it and bit her. And once the suspect had given up, the dog was commanded to release, and of course, it didn't. Not of course, but in this case, of course, it didn't. And at that moment, the handler also realized that, you know what, I don't have my taser, which is normally the way that they get the dog off the bite. If that's the normal way of getting off the bite, again, that is the biggest problem, is that he didn't have it with him. Not having the tool that is required to get your dog to do something is going to always be a problem, correct? So if you don't have to use that thing, and you only have to use your voice, that surely is an advantage than if you're using something like a taser. The taser, of course, he carried was not for suspects. It was because he was a canine hound. That's the only way he can get his dog to do stuff. So while the canine was continuing to bite her, he had to ask around the backup officers, do you have a taser? Do you have a taser? Do you have a taser? And fortunately for him, one of the officers from one of the other agencies had a taser, and he borrowed the taser and was able to get his dog off the bite. Now, there are many questions and issues that can be brought up by some of situations such as this. So if you're a handler or a supervisor of a canine team, you need to ask this question. Has a dog had prior incidents of failing to release? Especially those that have been documented either in training forums or in a previous use on the street. Something that other people know about, that the dog had failed to let go previously, and now here you have a situation where the officer couldn't get him off. If you have that, that is a problem. If this is the first time and it's an unusual occurrence, just like any other tool or thing that you use as a police officer, and the first time you've tried to use it, it fails because of inexperience, or something happened that is just just a fluke, then that's one thing. But if you had a previous failure and you already knew about it, we have a problem. How long was the dog on the bite because of this failure? How long was he on the bite because you didn't have your taser, or because the dog requires a taser to come off, where you had to search around and find a taser from another officer? What if that officer wasn't around? What if the officer that had the taser wasn't there? What was next? What were you going to do? What's going to happen when the taser stops working? Whenever you need to go to a harsh method to achieve a behavior, you should be aware that at some point the extreme measure will begin to stop working. It will begin to stop working. The reason this happens is because the reason they work in the first place. It is because the pain is so intense that it is self-preservation for the dog to let go. Not because they understand it's a correction for the bad behavior or for not following the command. So what ends up happening is the command that is followed by the taser or the cattle prod or the beating with the stick or the feeling of the sharpened pinch collars going into the dog's neck. What ends up happening is that following that command, the dog will merely begin to realize that is a warning about the pain that is about to start. Let me say that again. What ends up happening is the command is simply the warning to the dog that the pain is about to start. And the dog will begin to fight the pain. In most cases, the dog will begin to bite harder in an attempt to take himself out of the situation mentally. We do this as human beings when we get in car accidents and the pain is so intense. Maybe we've broken a femur or something's crushing us or something like that. The pain that we would normally feel can be mitigated by us taking us ourselves mentally out of the situation. Dogs will do the same thing. It is a self-preservation tool that our brain uses to mitigate the pain. And when I see this happening, I say the dog is now in the Bahamas. He is no longer in his head or in his body, because I can see that in that dog's eyes that he's taken himself out of the situation. And he's simply holding on as tight as he possibly can and hoping at some point he'll be able to come back into his body. Unfortunately, some handlers see their dogs released as soon as the dog itself sees the cattle prod or hears the taser being removed from the holder, like the button getting unsnapped or the Velcro ripping apart. When the dog hears that, he realizes, oh, here comes a taser, and they let go. Or they see the cattle prod and they let go. And unfortunately, the handler will say something like, that's right, they knew they were going to get zapped, so they had to let go. Or they knew to let go, or something bad was going to happen. The problem is, That may be true to some extent. But the problem is that the dog is not outing on the freaking command. The only reason the dog is outing is because of the extreme measure present. What if the measure, what if the tool, what if the taser, what if the cattle prod isn't present? Like in the case of the handler that just did the search in the field. And his dog bit the suspect and wouldn't let go. Where's my taser? The dog doesn't hear the sound of it coming out of the pocket, doesn't come out of the holder, doesn't hear the Velcro, doesn't hear the snaps. I don't have to let go because he doesn't have it. So the command of out is meaningless. So fortunately for that handler at that time, a police officer from another agency happened to have a taser. So I must remind you, because I want you to listen to me because I know what I'm talking about and because of my history. I want to remind you that I've worked with some of the biggest, baddest dogs in the business. So you may be saying, well, you work with security dogs, you don't know. You don't know my dog. My dog needs this. My dog needs to be zapped. My dog needs a cattle prod because he's a tough dog. A tough dog is not measured by the type of tool you have to use to get him out. That is silliness. It is laziness. It is the of the trainer, of sometimes even the handler. And again, am I making you feel uncomfortable? I am sorry. But you have to understand that this is the problem. Is we get lazy and we want a quick fix. So some of these big bad dogs that I've trained in the past, I have this experience. I have taken over units that have dogs that have never outed in their entire careers. The city of Orange, the city of Palm Springs, at the time that I took them over, and I know that they won't mind me telling you this, when I took them over, they both had dogs that have never outed. And yet, somehow, every year they certified. Now, I don't know how you certify a dog that's never outed. But when I took over, this is what I was up against. And we, at some point, were able to make breakthrough with their dogs. Now, we have had one dog in Palm Springs who had, I think that he was just taken so far and taken to such extreme that he simply was broken. And we retired that dog because at one point we realized that this dog was so far gone that there was no way to return. The pain that he had experienced in his lifetime, in his career, was so intense that the dog knew that letting go was not an option. Only holding on tighter. That was the only option. All right. I've also worked with some of the biggest and best dog trainers in the world, such as Bob Wright, Billy Nutt, Mark Vigilante, Steve White. Together at the International Police Canine Conference, we've gotten dogs to out that have otherwise the handlers have given up hope, and the dogs have never outed. One example that I remember is a dog in Florida, a gigantic blue Dutch Shepherd, the most amazing dog I've probably ever seen and haven't seen since. A big, blue, muscular dog, muscles on top of muscles. As far as a handler told us, the dog had never outed. Ever since he had the dog. I can't remember if the dog had been with a handler previously or if the dog was just born with this supposed inability to out, is what he told us. The dog had never outed. After Bob Wright, Billy Nutt, and myself put our heads together, we went in a little huddle. We came back, let's try this. We think that this dog has had this situation happen. And so we came up with a scenario that was going to hopefully work with this dog. And as we conducted this exercise, the dog outed for the first time. This handler had never seen the dog release a sleep on command. The dog outed for the first time. The handler was so speechless, we really truly thought he was going to cry. He was frozen in time as the dog released the sleeve and let go. If I knew this handler's name today, I would refer you to him and have him tell you the story. So if you're still with me, and you're having this issue, or you know somebody that's having this issue, or you're supervisor of a unit that's having this issue, please send me a note, either on our Tumblr site, or in an email, or on Facebook, or on Twitter, whatever it is you're using to communicate with us or see what's going on with us. Let me know what it is you want to know. Let us know about your dog. I will not use your name, I'll not use your agency's name, or I'll not even use the dog's name. I need to know what it is that you need to know about getting your dog out. I will do my best to cover as much as possible. I know that I won't be able to cover every possible issue that is out there, but we're going to do our very, very best to kind of help you along the path to getting your dog out for the first time. My goal is to help you and the canine industry as a whole. If we don't stop using these methods, we will eventually lose the privilege of working with dogs altogether, because we're going to begin to lose lawsuits. Dogs are going to begin to be and the handlers would be not trusted by the people that we're serving. All right? So hopefully you stuck with me throughout this video, and we will talk to you soon, and watch for a follow-up on how to get your dog out without using extreme measures. Take care. Talk to you later.